My name is Tori Pritchett, and I am a Living Archives Project intern. Today is September 27th, and this week there were 247 reported cases of COVID-19 in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, which shows an 11% decrease over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, each subject is comfortable not wearing it. Well, I'm not wearing this. Okay, and
I am Dr. LaSonya Townsend. I am known as Dr. T with most of my colleagues and students. I go by Sonya with my family. I am the oldest of 3 children. And so, yeah, I've been in higher education. This is the top of my 9th year.
okay. All right, and just as far as, getting to know you a little more,
Okay.
what would be considered home for you?
Home? Good question. Morven, North Carolina is home, my hometown. But I grew up in Chesterfield, South Carolina. But I live in Indian Trail now.
Okay. It's not too far here. And how long have you been living in Indian Trail?
I moved to Indian Trail in 2018, but I was living in Charlotte before then.
Okay. And how long have you been a professor at?
I'm at the top of my 9th year, so I just started my 9th year here.
Okay. And so that means you've been here for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely I want to know, how was the impact of COVID when it came to you being a professor?
Okay. So I remember it just as like it was yesterday. We had to stop having ground classes, and we went straight to online, which meant everything had to be virtual. And so we had to rework our curriculum, assignments and everything to be virtual, which took a lot of work in such a small amount of time.
Okay. And as far as the technology part, is there anything that you did differently? Was it an adjustment?
It wasn't necessarily an adjustment because I was already using Zoom or things like that for different reasons. But having to be online for that amount of time every day throughout the week was kind of isolating and draining. So it wasn't necessarily learning the technology. It was just being in front of the computer all the time and not being in the presence of my students and having that hands-on learning. That was.
Okay, so it seems like that did kind of change the day-to-day routine.
It did.
For you.
Mm-hmm.
You explain it to Deb a little more?
So, for an example, my students were in their practice class, and practice 1 is my favorite class. And so it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of hands-on work. And I like to walk around and have conversations with my students and make sure, because when I can see them and talk to them, it gives me a better, I feel better when I know that they understand the material. Versus online, it's hard to gauge whether or not they understand. So being in the classroom and having those relationships and making sure my students understood, because I wouldn't move forward in anything until everybody got what we were doing. And so it was hard to do that virtually.
Definitely. Was it, when it came to you communicating with your students and things like that and kind of gauging when they were, what did you do to kind of change to make sure that they're engaging, I should say?
Mm-hmm. So one thing is, they always knew it doesn't matter. I don't care if you sit in your bed or what, have your camera on so I can see your faces. And they knew it was okay because my students are non-traditional students. So they are home, they have families and everything. I always tell them, get relaxed, it's okay. I want you to be here in the present, whether you have to have on, a hair bonnet or whatever. But just be here in the present so I can make sure that you're getting what you need to move forward and to be successful. So just having that, and also I was available to my students. I created a Google Voice number so they were able to text me. if they had questions or concerns. Even though they would text me at 2 o'clock in the morning, I knew exactly who they were, and they knew that once I got up the next morning, I would respond to their texts. And they knew that, they understood that. So it was okay for them to text me whenever they felt like they needed to had a question or whatever, because again, they're non-traditional students. And if they're up at 2 o'clock in the morning knowing they have to go to work the next morning, it had to be something important or something that they needed to remind me of, or a question they needed to ask, before class the next time. So.
And so, as far as, what do you remember the earlier days during, I would say, the lockdown?
Feeling drained.
Feeling drained?
Yes. I didn't have a routine being home all the time. I was used to, I'm a routine person. I have a bunch of calendars. I have to have everything, laid out. And being home and being so close to my bed during the daytime, and it was draining for some reason. I don't know why, but it was draining being home, locked up, in the house, isolated.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Did it kind of feel like you were at a standstill?
I'm not sure. I don't think at a standstill. It was just because I wasn't out and about with my students and doing things. Mm-hmm. It was wake up in the morning, because when things shut down, you couldn't go to the gym, wake up, shower, eat, whatever, then you're in front of the computer, and you're in front of the computer the whole time. And then, it was that routine that I couldn't get used to, so.
Okay. And with you saying that, just learning a little bit more about yourself, I do want to reflect on the hand map activity
Okay.
that you did.
Okay.
So as far as going into depth a little bit more about that with you, learning more about yourself, could you reflect on the activity and what, you kind of learned about yourself? Anything, your support systems?
I think the biggest thing that I got out of COVID was not only tech savvy. I've learned how to do different things because they had a lot of professional developments for us. But the sense of self-worth, meaning being surrounded by so much sickness and death and things like that, you never know what tomorrow will bring. And so having a sense of self-worth and taking better care of myself and, living every day to the fullest, because you never know, with COVID, you can get it and,
Definitely.
So, and then not only that, I had a student to pass away from COVID, and that was a hard pill to swallow, and that was a year ago. So right before classes started, that was a real hard pill to swallow because, just talking to her on the phone and, while she was in the hospital and trying to be encouraging to her, and then you get an email. So that was a really hard time for me with COVID. So
I can only imagine, and you're definitely strong, because I know that took a toll, because especially with the role, you being a professor,
Mm-hmm.
the students, we know how much we mean to you,
Mm-hmm.
so I know, that was very hard for you.
It was.
Definitely. Okay. So with you saying that, like I said, with the students meaning a lot to you and stuff like that, as far as, what did you do when it came to your family?
Mm-hmm.
Did anything change along those lines, as far as you communicating with them?
No, because like I said, I'm the oldest, and my mom passed away a few years ago, and so automatically my brother and sister see me as that leader in the family, and so we always communicate, always see each other during holidays, get these random phone calls or text messages. So communication remained the same. It was just making sure that when we did talk that, we make sure we said, stay safe, don't do this, wear your mask or whatever, to make sure they stayed safe. So that was the main thing.
Definitely taking that extra
Mm-hmm.
precaution.
Yes.
Okay. And so around March, during the start of it,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, where do you think you were at that time? Like, could you explain how it was for you, us going through, the pandemic, us having to leave school and things like that?
Well, it was, like I said, it was all of a sudden lockdown, shut down, so we had to scramble and turn all of our ground classes into virtual classes, and then take all of our books and things that we needed home, setting up a makeshift office at home for the time being. And so getting all those things, making sure our technology at home, Wi-Fi, everything was in place. At that time, I was 30 pounds lighter and working with a personal trainer, and then everything shut down. So my livelihood, that's my self-care, is working out. And so all of that was taken from me. And so it was an adjustment. So just trying to figure out how to work out in my garage and stay motivated and all of that. That was a big toll. That took a big toll on my health at that time.
With you, how was it, working out at home?
It was.
Like that.
I would get up and do some exercises, but it wasn't the same as being in the gym. The motivation was lower, and I'm the type of person that like to lift weights, and so everybody bought all the weights, all the exercise equipment was gone. And I'm like, the gym has never been packed like that, but everybody wants exercise equipment, and it's all gone. So that was kind of devastating too, because I was just like, if I could just get some weights and do something at home. But everything was gone, so I had to work with my little 10-pound weights at home and whatever else I had, my little bands, and I made it work, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't. I like going to the gym, being around people, because I've made friends at the gym, of course, and seeing them, that made a difference too.
Okay. I'm definitely glad to hear that. What do you think your future will look like now that you've, experienced something that could be, in a sense, traumatic, but might not be the case? But what do you think your future?
I'm better off now because, like I said, I take more time for myself, so that self-worth has improved. Taking time to experience life and not just think about or worry about tomorrow, living each day, individually. That was the biggest change I made, because it used to be I'm thinking 2 weeks ahead of time. Like I said, I have a calendar, I have everything in place, but now it's just like I can't worry about tomorrow. I just can focus on today. And also just being, I won't say a blessing to other people, because some people have it, have a harder time than I'm having, and just making sure I show up and be there for other people as well. So that's making me a better person in the future, as well. More understanding, more empathy for people, even for my students.
That's what I was going to ask.
So, my students know me. They know how I am about deadlines and everything. But now with the pandemic, things happen. People get sick, they just, so just having more empathy for my students as well.
So you think you're more understanding now and things like that in such terms?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what do you think some of the long-lasting consequences of the pandemic would be?
I think whether you took the vaccination or not, health related. Just if you get COVID, there are research studies that show you have some lingering effects, health problems, lingering health problems if you do the vaccination. So either way, there are some health issues down the line that we may not see now, but I just can foresee happening, or some major health issues down the line. I don't know how, but I just feel like either way, we're going to have some issues. Because a lot of people I hear that had COVID have issues with energy or breathing, or still having a lingering cough, something. And especially if we had other issues already, underlying issues already. So I think health-wise, COVID we have really taken a hit with this.
Yes. Did you develop any better routines when it comes to, your immune system taking care?
Well,
sure?
I've always, like I said, taken care of myself, but I didn't realize that I could do better. Meaning, with COVID and the isolation, I think I was worried about things, but didn't know I was worrying about things, and that impacted my health at one point. Mm-hmm. And so, which is why I said I had to stop and slow down and live each day, individually, and not worry about the future. So that in itself has changed me and changed my health outlook. I don't do crazy stuff with my health. Like, I don't eat crazy all the time. I like working out. That's my self-care routine. But at the same time, I'm more cautious about everything now. And I think a lot of people are about what they eat and everything now just because of COVID.
Definitely. Okay, and just going back to, you saying, how you were actively in the gym and things like that. Now, have you gotten back into that routine?
Oh, yes. As soon as the gyms opened up, I was there. Yes. I was just telling my colleague this morning. She looked at me. She's like, you're tired. Yes, because I just came from the gym. I am tired.
You're still every morning?
I go. That's my self-care, meaning if I don't go to the gym, I'm a different person. Meaning, you know how people wake up and have to have their coffee?
Yes.
I have to have my workouts.
Okay.
So that gives me energy throughout the day. That gives me a positive mindset. That's my time to think about what's ahead, get myself together, and sweat,
Yeah.
Because the older you get, honey, I mean, I'm not thinking about the way I look. I'm thinking about my labs and cholesterol and all of that.
So the health aspect of it.
Yes. I'm not thinking about the way I look. I'm thinking about my internal organs and things like that. So that's why, yes.
Because some people, they look at it like, well, you look good, you feel good.
Right.
Which is true, but you're like, okay, it's more to it.
Yes, than looking good, because you can have some issues,
Definitely. Okay. I should have asked for photos or pictures or anything like that, but I didn't do that.
I'm not the photo type of person.
Yes.
So you see, I don't have any photos in my office at all. I don't have any photos at home except for my office, and they are tucked away somewhere.
Okay, gotcha.
I have them like in albums and stuff, but I'm not the person that puts them out all over the place.
Gotcha.
I've never been that kind of person.
What are some things, and I know that you did right there on the hand map, I believe, what are some things that you did gain from the pandemic?
So I talked about the tech savvy and the self-worth. Those are the main things. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share in terms of, a story or anything like that, another experience?
No, I just think that...
Any advice that you would like to, give that could possibly help?
No, I just think that overall, COVID, yes, is here to stay, I think. It's going to be just like the flu, I think. But I think in a sense, with everything we went through in higher ed with our students and online and all that, I think it has given us all, students and faculty, a sense of purpose now. And so I think that's the biggest thing as a profession that I got from COVID. A huge sense of purpose now, because there are so many things going on that COVID shed a lot of light on and that we need to address. And so a sense of purpose now. This whole Living Archives, thing has got my wheels turning with this whole cultural humility thing, and hopefully something is going to come of it. So.
Definitely. Well, I do thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to allow me to interview you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.